We're not done yet. Thank you so much, Herschel, not just for tonight, but for, again, putting your name on the line. It is a very vulnerable feeling, stepping into the arena, so to speak, and agreeing to kind of take some of these arrows. Listen, quick reminder, by the way, we still have opening bids. I think we're up to about a little over $3,500 on the signed football right over there. So we got about 12 or 15 more minutes. But I tell you what, if you want to talk about extremism, Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about that we're all extremists apparently here, that our next guest has been on the front lines of that extremism for a number of years. For my money, Todd Starnes is one of the most clarion voices on biblical conservatism in America today. And not only that, I mean, you might get this if you listen to his podcast or his radio shows or seen him on TV, but the guy is just funny. Like, he's just a funny guy. So there aren't a whole lot of archives that I'll kind of go through and listen to, but Todd is actually one of the few for me that I still tune in to, either for information or entertainment. So listen, I want you to join me in welcoming our good friend Todd Starnes to the stage tonight.
Well, thank you, and hello, Georgia. It is great to be here. I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, where I live, and I know Marjorie said that Atlanta has surpassed Chicago as the deadliest city in America. From Memphis, Tennessee, I say, hold my sweet tea, because we've got a lot of problems in our town, and I'll share about that in just a moment. But I so appreciate Ralph reminding me of something. I do remember when Barack Obama said, people like you and me, we cling to our guns and we cling to our religion. He called us bitter. I do remember when Hillary Clinton called us a basket of irredeemable deplorables. And I do remember when Joe Biden called us the dregs of society, and he calls us a bunch of fascists. Well, I'm here tonight in North Georgia to proudly proclaim that I'm proud to be a gun-toting, Bible-clinging son of a Baptist, and I'm not bitter, I'm blessed, and I'm not a fascist, I'm a red-blooded, flag-waving, freedom-loving American. Now, we've got a lot to celebrate tonight. I'm so excited by the name of this gathering, the Victory Dinner. It's an honor to be able to broadcast on a number of radio stations around the state of Georgia. WDUN is our radio station here in this part of the country that carries our program. And it's been an honor to have Marjorie and Congressman Loudermilk, and Herschel has been on the program, Dr. King. And it's an honor to be able to give your lawmakers, your candidates, a voice on the national platform. And I would encourage you to support WDUN and give them a good listen. Herschel, I got a call the other day from a fellow by the name of Joe from Ellijay. Some of you folks know that name. He said, Todd, you're not going to believe this, but even the folks from Georgia Tech are voting for Herschel. And so I said, all right, Joe, that's good. But we are living in interesting days, are we not, brothers and sisters? We're right now dealing with this issue of absolute truth, and I believe that to be the fundamental issue facing our great nation. Several years ago, when I was living in New York City, working at Fox News Channel, the MTV Music Awards were held in my neighborhood at the Barclays Arena. And it was sort of like the bar scene out of Star Wars in my neighborhood. Lots of interesting characters walking around. You might remember that was when Miley Cyrus mounted a wrecking ball on national television and did things that would make even an Episcopalian blush. It was also about that time that my good buddy Phil Robertson was castigated in the mainstream media because he dared say that God made marriage between one man and one woman. And in that moment, that really clarion moment for me, I realized that the media was celebrating Miley Cyrus and her act of debauchery while they were castigating Phil Robertson for standing up for biblical values. And at that moment, I felt like a Duck Dynasty guy living in a Miley Cyrus world, where right is wrong and wrong is right. Our values have been turned upside down. And here we are living in a nation where everyone has their own version of the truth. You have your version of the truth. I have my version of the truth. Well, no one bothered to step back and figure out what happens when your truth collides with my truth. Whose truth takes precedent? Well, we know the answer to that now because we literally have chaos in the culture. Now, I want to illustrate this point for you to show how ludicrous this idea is. Some of you might say, hey, that was a delicious dessert that we had tonight, and it was very good. Some of you might say, Todd probably should have had more of the salad and not the delicious cheesecake. That would be your truth. But what if my truth is I'm trans-slender? Right? At the end of the day, it doesn't mean I'm going to get into a pair of skinny jeans. The Bible tells us there is a truth, there is an absolute truth. He is the way, the truth, and the light. That's the truth that we believe in. I come to you from Memphis. I moved back home after 15 years at Fox News. I bought a news talk radio station in my hometown of Memphis. And we're a city that's hurting. And I hope that you look to what's been happening in Memphis and pay very close attention. Back in August, we had an election. There were a number of Republicans on the ballot. Only 20% of registered voters went out to cast a vote on Election Day. As of today, there are no Republicans elected to high office in Memphis, Tennessee. We now have a George Soros-style district attorney running things in Memphis. It is a very dangerous place, as you have seen in recent days. And the reason why is because we didn't get out and fight. We took things for granted. And I'm so excited to see this massive crowd here tonight and the enthusiasm and the excitement, because this is what needs to happen. We've got to get engaged. We've got to get out there and we've got to fight. And if we fight, we will win the day. I think about my sweet Aunt Lynn. She's the church organist at the Coldwater United Methodist Church. She's a retired English teacher. She gave me my love for writing and introduced me to my very first Louis Grizzard book when I was in junior high school. Aunt Lynn is in charge of church security at the Coldwater United Methodist Church. She has a little bedazzled Glock that she has up on the piano bench. She can squeeze off a couple of rounds and not miss a beat playing Amazing Grace. She's a great lady, my Aunt Lynn. We were talking one day about the election, and they're very active in politics. And you've heard some wonderful, inspirational speeches. And I don't know about you, but I have been encouraged tonight. Ultimately, we're facing a battle in this country, and it's a battle that conservatives have been fighting since really the 1960s. William F. Buckley Jr. wrote about this in his book, God and Man at Yale. And he described the conservative movement as really a fight against communism. And the fight against communism was not a political fight. It was a religious fight. It was a spiritual war that we were fighting. Ronald Reagan understood that as well. And here we are so many years later, and we are now facing the threat of communism on American shores, on American soil. What happens come November matters. This is the hill to die on. We've got to get every single person out there. We've got to get people out to the polls on Election Day. I'm working on a new book, and I was doing some research, and I came across a letter. And I want to close with this. It's a little weird, but just bear with me for a moment. Because you see, I believe that the greatest issue of all that we are facing is an issue of the heart. In 1982, Ronald Reagan, facing all sorts of fierce controversies all over the world, he was in the Oval Office. His father-in-law, Loyal Davis, a pioneering neurosurgeon, was near death. Mr. Davis was an atheist. President Reagan, the great communicator, sat down in the Oval Office, and in spite of all the world chaos and turmoil, he wrote a 4-page letter to his father-in-law. And in that letter, he started it out very simply. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. You see, Ronald Reagan, the great communicator, understood the message that we share here at the Faith and Freedom Coalition Dinner, that ultimately it's a matter of the heart. If we want to change America, we have to change people's hearts. No doubt, when you look at President Biden and the Vice President Kamala Harris, as we say in Tennessee, the cheese has done slid off their cracker. Yeah, it's rough out there, folks, but I have hope. I have hope, and I see before me lots of happy warriors. You see, I have hope because my hope is not found in the halls of Congress. My hope is not found at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. So God bless you, my good brothers and sisters here in the state of Georgia. Onward to victory.